It is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. But with the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave. We found that it is fatal, for when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit. The insanity of alcohol returns, and we drink again. And with us, to drink is to die. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men, but for alcoholics, these things are poison.
So imagine, if you will, you're walking down the street. It's like a uphill walk that you're doing, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes this truck rolling down the hill with nobody behind the wheel. It's like a runaway truck, and it's coming right for you. I don't know about you, but my first initial feeling or emotion would be, fear. Like, oh my God, this truck's gonna run me over, right? Well, that's the initial emotion. Would be fear. You do the best you can to get the heck out of the way so that the truck doesn't run you over. You successfully get out of the way of the truck. And so now your next feeling, the next emotion that you experience is relief. Oh, thank God. Thank God I didn't get hit by the truck. That's where normal people would leave it. Me, I'm different. And I guess it's part of my my alcoholism. But I got to take it one step further with, wait a minute, whose truck was that anyway? See, I got to throw some anger in there. Now, the question is, why? Why do I have to throw anger in there? The reason is, my reason for throwing the anger in there is to deal with it. It's a coping mechanism. And a lot of times that's what anger is. One of the things that I learned in treatment, yes, I've been to treatment, but one of the things that I learned in treatment was that anger is not a primary emotion. Primary emotion being the initial emotion or feeling that you're having. Have you ever wondered why I keep looking down? Well, there's shells all over the place, and it's hard not to look at the shells. I've got quite a collection at home. I don't know what the heck I'm ever going to do with them, but they're pretty. Back to using the anger. Anger being not a primary emotion. The primary emotion is the first emotion that you're feeling. It turns out that anger is a secondary emotion, meaning that there has to be a starting point, something that spurs a reason to bring out the anger. Like the example of the runaway truck. When you first see the runaway truck coming towards you, do you immediately get angry? No. Anger's like, that's way down the road still. The first initial feeling is fear. And it turns out that fear is behind just about every form of anger. The Big Book tells us that resentment is our number one offender. And, all resentment is revisited anger from the past. Let's say that runaway truck was red. Well, resentment would mean that every time I see a red truck, I start experiencing the whole thing all over again. And I get angry. And it festers. And it's a resentment now. A resentment that will be with me until I let it go. And you guys know, the resentments, not only are they the number one offender, they will eat you up. They'll eat you up inside. And you know, the funny thing is, the guy that owns that red runaway truck, he's forgotten about the whole thing. It's over with. It's in the past, man. You know, he settled with the insurance company or whatever, and, you know, it's over. But you're still hanging on to it. That's the resentment. So that's got to go. It cannot remain and experience a sober, happy existence in life. Resentments have to be a thing of the past.
Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. For we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically.
I relate anger closely to drinking. It's very similar. Anger helps me to cover up those feelings of fear, just like drinking does. If I relate anger to drinking, and I'm supposedly in recovery, anger is like having a slip. It's about finding the primary emotion behind it, experiencing it, feeling it. Don't cover it up, experience it, you know? And let it run its course. The runaway truck, yeah, fear in the beginning, but then relief that it was over. You know, thank God, thank you God, I didn't get run over by a runaway truck today. It's that simple. And then move on. Who cares whose truck it is? So let's talk about justified anger. Is justified anger completely justified? Does it make sense to have justified anger? One of the things I have trouble with not releasing anger is when it comes to money. Money is a big trigger for me as far as that goes. You rip me off, I'm going to be angry. But it doesn't start out with anger. Again, it starts out with fear. You know, most fears tend to be fear of losing something you already have or not getting what you think you deserve. When someone steals from me, the initial feeling is fear. Now we quickly, and I mean quickly, cover it up. We cover it up with anger. Now, if you're being, here's that word again, intentional about not expressing anger, and there's reasons for not wanting to express anger. This is not always about what feels good, because anger can make you feel good. Anger can make me superior to you because you made me angry, and you know, I deserve to talk bad about you and cuss at you and, you know, lash out at you. So anger puts me on that superior level, and puts you at a lower level. Do you understand what I mean by that? So if I'm going to justify my anger, I might as well be justifying drinking. Anger and drinking are so closely related that I do my best to abstain from anger. And that does take practice, believe me. I don't think I'll ever completely rid myself of anger. because it's kind of a go-to coping mechanism for feelings that are uncomfortable and to make me feel better, regardless of whether I jumped out of the way of that truck or not. If the truck had run me over, I would still, not only would I still wind up angry, but it still would have begun with fear. I'm not always perfect at all this stuff. I am intentional, and that doesn't always work out. But I try to stay intentional about avoiding anger and resentment and those things that are not good for me. As someone in recovery, I don't need to be experiencing those kinds of things. It brings about an uncomfortability that, frankly, it's uncomfortable. Now, this was kind of a quickie video because I saw it in myself. I saw myself getting angry about something that obviously began with fear. You know, if you've done a fourth step, you understand what I mean by fear. I remember when I first came to the program, there was a meeting and the topic was fear. And all these people were talking about their fears and everything, and I thought, gosh, no wonder they got a drink. They got all these damn fears, you know? Well, I knew what fear was, but I didn't call it fear. I called it anger. So, let's try to be intentional about not allowing anger to cover up that primary emotion. Anger is a secondary emotion and only comes to those who are uncomfortable with the primary emotion. So, you guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy life. Don't let them get you down. You know, life is too short, it's too beautiful, and too perfect to walk around angry all the time. Remember, resentment is the #1 offender. Enjoy. Enjoy life. Enjoy recovery, and I'll see you next time.